7. Now, the Big 12 this weekend, Kansas State, quietly kind of under the radar because of that loss to Tulane, who's now ranked in the top 25. Adrian Martinez, Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State, and their offense, with what they do, which they don't throw it much. What was the stat? Martinez, 138 passes without a pick, which is still staggering because of his past, against what TCU does, which is just put up a ton of points. This is not immovable and whatever, but it's a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. And Chris Kleiman, sometimes you answer, like, what's the simplest way to get Adrian Martinez to stop throwing interceptions? Don't throw the ball as much. He's going to throw less just based on that, unless he was just automatically throwing them no matter what pass he threw. But that's what they've done. If TCU can slow down that running game and make him have to throw the ball more than they're comfortable doing, that's how they win the game. They're on an unbelievable run right now, and even through, that game, which was, felt like it was in hand for Oklahoma State for a little bit, and then TCU just came charging back. We'll see how they play against a team that's got a really good defense, but I wonder, that offense is so prolific that even on a wonky day for most of it against Oklahoma State, they still managed to put up 37 points in regulation.
Yeah, it's ought to be
30, whatever they did, but yeah.
Ought to be fun. I think TCU's plenty good. I don't think that they're, like 2014 Baylor, though. I don't think that they're, the top. I don't think they're Tennessee, on offense. But they're very good. Max Duggan has done a really nice job of taking over that offense and making it his, and being a bruising runner when he needs to be, and being a quick runner when he needs to be, and just being a smart quarterback throwing the football when he needs to be. I mean, he's done his job to a T, and has really helped spearhead this kind of not improbable, but just I don't think many people were thinking about TCU in this regard, even with the talent they had coming back. But then you realize of the talent they have, and you plug in Duggan in the way he's playing, and Dykes in just the more carefree, loosened up atmosphere, and it's no wonder it's working. They had talent. That wasn't the question. There's a lot of guys left over. But now I think you got the right quarterback piece, and you've got the right attitude amongst the players and the coaches and just the program as a whole, and just a really good culture going on with some really good talent. And you're seeing good football as a result of that. I think K-State's in a similar spot where, Adrian Martinez has given them a different dynamic. Now, it does come with the question of okay, well, what happens if he's got to go throw you to a win? Well, they've managed to basically avoid that and haven't had to really answer that question too often. They've been able to really, feast mostly on that run game, and he's protected the football when he has had to throw it. I mean, I don't think he has an interception this year, or that was your stat, right? So, yep. I mean, that right there, to be halfway through the season and not have a pick for Adrian Martinez, I don't care if he's throwing it 5 times a game. That's massive progress for him. So, yeah, two purple teams that are really loving life at the moment. Whoever wins this game will be, right there in the front seats of the bus heading towards the championship in Arlington, albeit with some more stops along the way. But whoever wins will be in good control of their destiny, and I think it ought to be a great game. I'm just curious, how effective is TCU in limiting that running combo? And if they're effective at it, how does K-State then respond, in kind? And I think that's kind of the game for every K-State matchup is, how effective are you in limiting Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn running the football? And then let's move on to chapter 2 after that.
So far, the only person who's figured it out was Willie Fritz one night. And so, just saying hey, let's make them throw the ball. Well, they're 5-1. Well, five people. I mean, we say that, they've had a couple, but as far as slowing them down enough to beat them, just Tulane's the only team that's beaten Kansas State this year.
I will say, though, I mean, they only scored 10 against Iowa State. Yeah. They were there for the taking. That game was there for the taking for Iowa State. I mean, I think Martinez threw 15 balls maybe in that game. So they still didn't, they weren't forced in. It was just a gritty run the football type of game. So if you want to get into a matchup like that, Iowa State's built to do that. That's an Iowa State type of game. They got them into their type of game. But fortunately, that's also a K-State type of a game. So, that's going to be really interesting to see TCU's defense against, Martinez and Vaughn and how effective they can be. And then the other side, obviously K-State plays some defense too, and they'll have a few more weapons to have to worry about with the fine folks in Fort Worth.
I don't have the stats that I probably could have looked up before I brought it in here, but I thought the part that was the difference in the game was that TCU just kept running the football.
Yeah,
they kept Miller and others, and it wasn't just the passing that they had when Duggan was good. I think he had under 300 yards, but they pounded the football and eventually wore down Oklahoma State, it seemed, in that second half.
Yeah, they're a running football team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Max Duggan's not known for his 400-yard passing games necessarily. This is going to be I think a game that kind of suits both teams, but who ultimately has the stronger of the two sides. Both teams have great run games. Who has the better run game on Saturday? I'm curious to see that, and I think whoever does probably wins that football game. And if it were to somehow get into a bit of a stalemate there, and it's tipped towards, whose defense makes a play, I think they're pretty close there. And then, eventually it probably, boils down to things like turnovers or special teams or whatnot. But if it comes down to who can throw the ball better, then I think you lean TCU, because we just haven't seen Martinez have to do that a ton. But, maybe they aren't able to force him into that. I don't know.
Last week in the win against Oklahoma State, 224 yards, 6 yards per pop, 5 yards per pop against Oklahoma State. And their longest run was only 21 yards, so it was methodical, pounding the ball against a very good Oklahoma